Hey, Toby Lapinski for the Fisherman Magaizne. I'm here at Black Hall Outfitters with their install guy, Paul Ferreira.
Hello.
This is the first video in the series where we're taking this awesome 2020 Old Town Predator PDL, which is a great boat right out the gate, but we're going to fully customize this thing to make it an absolute fishing powerhouse, customized to how I fish out here on the water. And you would be able to do the same thing. You can always check in with these guys at Black Hall. They are expert installers as well as dealer of the Old Town product line and get a similar setup for yourself. But today we're starting off. We got my Humminbird here that's just going in. So, you know, when I picked up this fish finder, it was actually intention to go on a boat, but now I've got the Kayak, even better. One of the first questions, what are some considerations, placement, thoughts when you're taking this big unit and putting it here onto the boat for getting out on the water fishing?
Well, you're going to have two major considerations when you're purchasing the fish finder and when you're placing it. The first big consideration is going to be the size of the fish finder. On a smaller kayak, like say a topwater 10.6 or something in that ballpark, a 5-inch fish finder is more than enough. However, if you're like me and you're blind as a bat, you're probably going to want to go with a 7-inch or a larger.
Yeah.
The biggest thing to bear in mind if you start going above the 7-inch, in your case here with a 9-inch, it is a very wide fish finder, so you have to make sure that your kayak has enough room.
Yeah.
The other factor to consider is placement. The opposite side of where your line is going to be going, where you're going to be fishing off of, is the best place to place a fish finder on a kayak. Excuse me. And additionally, some people prefer to have it on whatever their dominant hand is.
Yeah.
So, you know, for example, I'm right-handed. I want to have it on my right-hand side.
Well, I'm right-handed. When I've fished on kayak before, I always tend to fish off the left side of the boat. It's more comfortable for me. So I'm guessing in my case, we're going to be dropping this guy right on here.
Sounds good to me.
Excellent. So we got the fish finder here going on the kayak. Obviously, one of the big considerations is powering this bad boy. So what do we think of when we're looking for, what are requirements, what are things to think about when picking up or selecting a battery to match up with your unit?
So there's going to be a few different considerations you need to have. The first is what type of battery you're going to be going with. Some people choose to go lead acid, others choose to go lithium. In the case of this build, as we have here, we're going to go lithium. The upside with lithium is it's a much lighter battery, and it also tends to have higher capacities for the size.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be running a large fish finder, such as what Toby's doing here, and lighting on top of that, lithium battery is probably going to be the way to go.
Excellent.
The other factor is actually the capacity itself. All batteries are rated in what's called amp hours, and the basic formula for amp hours is whatever your draw is on the boat divided by the amp hour rating is going to give you the hours that you can draw from the battery. So if you have, for example, a 1 amp draw on your fish finder and you have a 9 amp hour battery, you can theoretically get 9 hours.
Okay.
So in the case of your 50 amp hour battery, I'm terrible with math on my head, but
we've got plenty.
Yeah, you got more than enough capacity. You're gonna have about a 3 amp draw on the lights, and you're gonna have maybe about an amp to an amp and a half on your fish finder.
Which is another thing we'll be getting into. One of the subsequent videos. This whole video series is sponsored obviously Old Town, guys at Black Hall, Humminbird, Yak-Attack,
Yak Lights.
Yak Lights. So all of these you're going to see over these next couple of videos, each one set up by the fish finder, safety, accessories. Obviously, this whole series is sponsored by each one, but you're going to see those individual units get put in as we go along. So, all right, you know what? I've been staring at all this equipment long enough. I've been talking to you long enough. Let's get to the build.
Let's do it.
Excellent.
And for this install, we'll be using just a few parts from this kit. We will not need everything. The first is obviously the transducer here. Here it is. And we're going to need the power wire as provided. We are going to need the mounting knobs. These two pieces right here. And we're going to need the mounting bracket. So a unique part of mounting a transducer on a 2020 PDL is actually going to be the mount itself. So you can see on this Helix-9 transducer here, this plate is going to mount right on here, just like so. And the big part that's a little bit unique is this part right here. So this is the part that would mount on the transom of a boat. And normally, if you're mounting this on a standard boat, you'd mount it something like that. If you do this on the Predator, it's actually going to be too low. It's going to hang below the boat, and you have a high chance of hitting it and scraping the transducer. A quick and little trick to fix that is you're actually gonna take the bracket and you're gonna mount it backwards. And you'll see this when we get underneath the boat in a little bit more detail. But what's gonna happen is this is gonna mount to the transducer plate. This is gonna mount like this, and you can see it's tucked up nice and tight. So you're not gonna have that hanging below the boat problem. Okay, so to mount this to the transducer, I'm gonna take these small included screws, and we're gonna take these little lock washers, and we're just going to put them in. I like to start them a little bit by hand, just so that way you don't strip them. Then we're gonna take our drill here and tighten these down. Now you don't need to go crazy tight. These are only brass inserts, they will get damaged. So we'll grab another one here. Oops. Just like that, and we're gonna end up doing all 6 of these. All right, and as you can see, this is the final product. Just 6 bolts, 6 lock washers, nice and tight, and this Helix-9, you can see it's a very rigid mount. It's definitely not gonna go anywhere, even if somehow you do hit it. Okay, so I've removed the transducer mounting plate from the bottom of the boat, which comes standard on all the 2020 PDLs. And we're gonna take this bracket, and as I mentioned earlier, we're gonna mount it upward rather than downward. This is how you would mount it on a normal standard boat or skiff or something. We're actually gonna be mounting it backwards. A little bit weird, but it works really well. Okay, so now I've mounted this plate to the transducer mounting plate. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this in. And on this particular transducer, you can see there's a cavity in here for a nut, and we're going to have a bolt that's going to go through. So I'm going to put this down here for a moment. I have a washer here, and the way that this works is it's going to be a washer on one side, straight through like this. And then you're going to grab a washer here, and finally the nut on the other end, and tighten that down. Make a little thing here. I should also mention that this plate you're going to want to have parallel, straight up and down. You don't want to have it on any angle or anything, or else the transducer is going to hit the top of the hole, and you're not going to have any sort of issue. You're going to have all sorts of issues rather with signaling on the bottom. Okay, so now that this is attached, what you're gonna need are these 2 screws, which are included on the boat. These are gonna be the ones that attach your transducer mount if you choose not to use it. So I'm not just pulling these out of nowhere. And what's gonna happen is we're gonna take this, and we're gonna go underneath the boat, right up to the front edge here. As you can see, these 2 mounts right here, there's some tiny brass inserts. And what's gonna happen is we're gonna take this, then we're going to take one of our screws, and we're going to put it in. And this is a very tight fit and can be a little irritating to do. There we go. And as you can see, they're both tightened down now. And just as I mentioned earlier, you can see that the transducer is nice and flush right up here. And the final step, of course, is going to be to just take the wire we have here, as I uncoiled it off camera, and we're just going to carefully feed it up through the provided hole. Okay, so we're going to be using this phenomenal product that you can only get here at Blackhall. It's our waterproof clamshell through-hole kit, and we have this TPU gasket, and we'll show this off in a little bit, but this is going to go through the wire, similar to this. As you can see, grips the wire nice and tightly, and as that clamshell tightens down like this, it's going to grab that wire and make sure it's nice and sealed up, so when you have a hole into your kayak, there's no water getting in. There we go. Keeps everything clean. Let's get something going on here. Okay, so now I have the wire run up and into the boat here, and you can see I have the hole drilled and all the screw holes and everything. And the next part is going to be this gasket. It's a little bit tricky to use at first, but it's easy once you do it a couple times. So all you're going to do is you're just going to bend the gasket just like this. Don't worry, you're not going to break it. It's a very durable gasket. And you're just going to push the wire in like that. You can kind of see here. It's just grabbing the wire, and it goes right into this little hole here. And all you're gonna do is you're just gonna push that up against here, like that. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna grab the clamshell, and you're gonna feed that over the top. Once again, just like this. It's gonna be a little hard on the first screw just because it's all kind of bent and, you know, it's trying to conform to the gasket, but that's okay. And you're just going to put that in the screw hole that you drilled earlier, or the pilot hole. And you're just gonna tighten it down. All right, and as you can see, by having this clamped down now, this gasket is sealing against the wire. It's nice and tight. You can see I can't really pull on it. It's a nice seal. And you can see, if you look in here, the wire's just gonna come down through this hole right here, down, and we have all this extra. That means we can coil up all the extra, leave it in here nice and neat and out of the way, and we just have to have enough on this other end. Okay, now that we have the wire run up through this little transducer mount thing, whatever you want to call that, we're going to remove this mounting plate here. As Toby said earlier, we're going to mount it on the right side, not on the left. So we're just going to take these out. All it is 4 little screws. Just like that. And if we pull this plate away, you can see we have all the access in the world. And we're going to do the exact same process as we did up here with this clamshell this time, which is the exact same actual plastic clamshell. The only difference is the gasket. We'll show this here. Oops. So the difference on this one is instead of having just the one hole for one wire, obviously now we're going to have the power wire and the transducer wire. So this one has 2 instead of the 1. But it's the same exact mounting process, same using the template, drill what you need to drill. It's just that easy. Okay, so through the magic of editing, I've run the wires in and through this new hole right here. And we're going to install this new gasket just like we did on the other one before, no difference. Just as a little pro tip on these Helix specific, Humminbird specific fish finders, they usually have these 2 tags on the transducer wire, just like this here, model number and a part number or something. My rule of thumb is the length of the cable, the slack that you should have out, should be right around up to this point. So if we're installing the gasket, we're going to install it right about there. Okay, so we've reinstalled the plate that was on here originally, and now we're ready to start setting up this Yak-Attack Humminbird Helix mount. So inside the packs here, get that off camera, whoops. So we start with this main plate right here. This is the part where the main bracket is going to mount to. You can see that right here. This is the one that comes with your fish finder, and you can see it lines up just like that. The second part down here is the base. And this is using Yak-Attack's proprietary lock and load technology. And you can see here, if I undo this little connection, it pops out with this little nubule, and this nubule will sit right on the track and allow you to adjust it back and forth. If you have a full length track on your kayak, it'll allow you to go the whole length of wherever your track is. Okay, now that we have the mount unbagged, we're gonna grab the U bracket that comes with your fish finder. I'm gonna grab the top half of the Humminbird mount, this guy right here. And we're gonna line up the holes with the holes in the mount. On this particular bracket and with this particular configuration, the smaller holes on the inside of the U bracket should line up with these angular ones right here. And we're going to take the included hardware and we're just going to feed it through. And on the other side here, there's this little spot right down there where you can fit a nut. There we go. We'll just tighten this down a little bit. Just like that. And you're going to take a 3/32 Allen key here, and you're just going to start tightening this down. Okay, now that we have the plate installed, and now that I have the fish finder on the bracket, as you can see here, we're going to install this. This is the lock and load assembly, as I mentioned earlier. The way this works is you're just going to loosen this little knob up here until you have a little bit of space on the T-nut. You're going to pop it in, just like so. You're going to drag it to where you want. I'm going to put it roughly here. I tend to like my fish finder a bit forward and kind of out of my way, but obviously you can put it on this back section or you can slide this more forward. And then all you need to do on the fish finder end is you're going to unclick this little guy right here. There you go. You're going to pop this down and you're going to lock it in place. Okay, now that we have the fish finder installed, the next part of this process is going to be wiring, which I know scares a lot of people away, but trust me, you don't need to be intimidated. So you're going to notice here I have a couple different wires in my hand. This wire right here is the one that comes from our fish finder. This is what we're going to be working with today. These 2 wires I'm also going to be wiring up, which we will not be using today, but will be featured in our next section on safety and for the lighting system on this kayak. So for the purposes of making this battery easy to remove and easy to service and everything else, we're going to be using what's called a Delphi weather pack connector. It's this guy right here. These are very inexpensive and a very nice connector. It has a waterproof seal on this inner edge as well as on the backside of the wire, making it a very durable connector. And it's just a great way to allow for a battery like the one that Toby has here to be removable and serviceable. Okay, so now that we're done with that end of the connection, we're going to work on the battery end of the connection right here. So to start on the positive end, I use 2 individual fuse holders here. As previously mentioned, we'll be doing a section on lighting on this kayak in the near future. So one of these is just going to go toward the lighting circuit, and the other one is going to go for the fish finder. So this is rant time with Paul here. We're going to show you, these are heat shrink connections here, heat shrink eyelets. Highly recommended. Anytime you do anything on a marine boat, you really want to make sure you have heat shrink, as this is going to seal the end of the connection, prevent water and salt and everything from getting into the ends of these connections. And at the end, you'll be left with a nice connection. It'll be sealed, so no water or salt will get in. And it's going to be a very durable connection that should last the lifetime of the battery. Once your wiring's all done, the next step is going to be organizing the wires that you have. And this is one of the beautiful things about running the wires through the clamshells here, is we have all the wires nice and neat inside the hull. So here I have all the transducer wire, and because you can't cut transducer wire, you need to find a place to tuck it. So what we're going to do to start with is I'm just going to start looping this up like so. And because in this situation we will not be using the battery bag for anything, what we can actually use that for is a great spot to hold our transducer wire. So I'm just going to zip tie this together like so, and more like this. Like so. There we go, we got a nice bundle. We'll clip off the tag ends because we don't want to leave those. And I'm just going to take this, run it nice and neat inside this bag, like so, and zip it on up. And now, as you can see, you cannot see any wires except the power wire we have right here. Nice and neat way to hold all of your transducer wire.
All right, well, there you have it. You've seen us now install the Humminbird unit. We've got power, we've run the wires. Everything has been nice, tight, clean, professionally looking. Really psyched, all the work the guys here at Black Hall are doing. The big moment of truth, though, once you get all of that done, is will she fire up? So let's see. We're going to start to pop off the cover. And we got power. Excellent. All right. I had complete faith that it was going to fire up, but you still got to just double check. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, of course.
It's been fun so far. And again, as we noted, this is just one of the rigging videos that we've got here. We've got videos coming up, obviously sponsored by Black Hall Outfitters, Old Town, Yak-Attack, Yak Lights. Everything is going to be done in these videos. We've got accessories, safety, so stay tuned. Be sure to check out those videos where we're going to take your stock PDL, Predator PDL, turn it from just the regular old boat, which is great on the water, but into that true fishing machine, fully customized to what you did. Thanks again to all the sponsors. Stay tuned, check out that next video.